Hello everyone, myself Piyushan Tandil, working as Assistant Professor in Electrical Engineering Department of Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Technical Education and Research Center, Navsari. And the name of subject is Microprocessor and Microcontrollers, which comes in third year, 6th semester. Right now we are discussing the 8085 interrupts, and this is module number 3.2. So in this video lecture we are going to see the nested interrupts, then after 8085 structure and its operation. So it have two types, that is hardware and software. Then after overall interrupt structure, that is hardware interrupt structure in 8085 and software interrupts in 8085. Then after we are going to see the masking and unmasking interrupts. After that, pending interrupts and interrupts timing, and last one, that is the interrupts driven input output. So we are going to cover these topics in this video lecture. So starting with the nested interrupts. So for some device, a long delay is responding, a long delay in responding to an interrupt request may cause error in operation of the computer. So we do not require long delay. Okay, this is the sentence. For some device, a long delay in responding to an interrupt request may cause error in the operation of the computer. Such interrupts are acknowledged and serviced even though processor is executing an interrupt service routine for another device. Okay, a system of interrupts that allow an interrupt service routine to be interrupted is known as nested interrupts. So this is the definition of nested interrupt: a system of interrupts that allow an interrupt service routine to be interrupted is known as nested interrupt. So whenever one interruption or one service routine is executing at the same time, second interrupt is going to be executed, that is called as a nested interrupts. And consider, for example, a computer that keep a track of the time of day using real time clock. This real time clock request to process at a regular interval, and processor accordingly update the count for the second, minutes and hour of the day. For the proper operation, such an interrupt request for a real time clock must be proceed even though computer is executing an interrupt service for other device. So this do not need to be changed. So clock time do not need to be, timing of the clock must proceed even though computer is going to execute any kind of interruption service. Okay, next we are going to see the 8085 interrupt structure and its operation. So there are different type of interrupts. So in 8085 has multiple interrupt system. It support two types. So multiple interrupt system means there are other various types in these two methods, that is hardware and software. So first, we are going to study the hardware. So in hardware, some pins of 8085 allow peripheral device to interrupt the main program for input output operation. So whatever the peripheral device, so what is connected with our microprocessor, that are either input device or output device, that are called as a peripheral device, and which is going to interrupt the main program. Okay, when the interrupt occurs, the 8085 complete the instruction it is currently executing and transfer the program control to subroutine that service the peripheral device. Okay, so whatever the current instruction is going to be executed, it is going to be executed, and from the very much of next instruction, it is going to transfer its execution to the subroutine that is going to service that input output peripheral. Okay, now upon the completion of the service routine, the MPU return to the main program. This type of interrupts where MPU pin are used to receive interrupt request are called as a hardware interrupts. So single level and multi-level interrupts are hardware interrupts that we studied in previous video lecture. So if you don't have any idea about the interrupts, then please watch the previous video first, then after watch this video. So next one, that is the hardware, software. So in software, interrupts. The cause of interrupts is the execution of the instruction. These are special instructions supported by the microprocessor. So we are already, or we can say we are predefining some of the instruction in our program, in our microprocessor, that is going to execute interruptions. So after execution of this instruction, microprocessor complete the execution of the instruction it is currently executing and transfer the program control to the subroutine program. Okay, same as well as in hardware. So upon the completion of the execution of subroutine program, program control return to the main program, and main program is continually executing itself. Okay, so it is important to note that to allow to service new interrupt when current interrupt is being serviced, two condition must be satisfied. The first one, that is new interrupt must be enabled, and second condition, that is new interrupt must be higher priority. New interrupt must have higher priority. So let's say that we have programmed something like this, and at this point we have some interrupt, so it is going to transfer it to the interrupt, and interrupt is going to be reset. But this is where we are going to reset our interrupt, but in between we have another interrupt. At that time it is going to transfer from here to there, and then after this interrupt is going to be completed, and after service routing it is going to continue with this interrupt, and after repairing this it is going to pop back to the main program, and main program is going to be executed where it is going to be left. Okay, this is how it is going to be work. Now overall interrupt structure. Now hardware interrupt in 8085. So in overall structure we are going to see the hardware interrupts. So the 8085 have 5 hardware interrupts. We have 5 hardware interrupts that are in pin basis, that is trap, RST, 7.5 RST, 6.5 RST, 5.5 and INTR. These are the 5 hardware pins that we have in our 8085 microprocessor. So when any of these pins expect INTR is active, the internal control circuit of the 8085 produce a call to predetermined memory location. It produce call to the predetermined memory location, and this memory location where the subroutine start is referred to as a vector location, and we already know about the vector interrupts, right? So it is going to call as a vector location, and such interrupt are called as a vector interrupts. We already studied about the vector interrupts. Okay, so the INTR is not a vector interrupt. It received address of subroutine from the external device. It is going to receive some of the interrupts address from the external devices. Next we are going to see the software interrupts in 8085. So the 8085 has 8 software interrupts from RST0 to RST7. So from 0 to 7 it is 8 total software interrupts. So vector address for this interrupt can be calculated as follows. So if we need to find the vector address, at that time we can call as an interrupt number, that is whatever the interrupt number we have multiplying by 8, because we have RST0 to RST8 is equal to our vector address. So for example we have 5, that is the number of interrupt, so we are multiplying 5 with the 8, that is this 8 over here, and we can get answer that is equal to 40, or we can say 28H. This is the answer for this 5 number of interrupts. Okay, now vector address of the interrupts RST5 is 0028H, that is the hexadecimal number of the interrupt of RST5. The table shows the vector address of all interrupts. So we have interrupts, that is RST0, RST1, RST2, RST3, RST4, RST5, 6 and 7. So for that we have hexa code. So for the RST0 we have C7, for 1 we have CF, for 2 we have D7, for 3 we have DF, 4 we have E8, 5 we have EF, 6 we have F7 and 7 we have FF. Okay, and that we can call our vector address as, this is the vector address for C7 we have 0000H, for CF we have 0008H, then after for D7 we have 0010H, for DF 0018H, E7 0020H, EF 0028H. F70030H and FF, that is 0038H. From this table we can find the vector address of our hex code, and at whatever point we are going to give our instruction, that is in software manual. Okay, so this is the vector address for software interrupts. Now we are going to see the masking and unmasking of interrupt. As mentioned earlier, maskable interrupt are enable and disable under program control. In this session, we will see how interrupts can be marked and masked and unmasked using program control. And there are 4 instructions used for controlled interrupts. So here are 4 instructions, that is EI, DI, RIM, that is RIM, and SIM, that is SIM. So let's see this figure. First of all, this is the interrupt of accumulator bit pattern for the SIM instruction. So for SIM instruction we have M5.5. so M indicates that mask reset, that is 5.5. Whenever it is set at 1, we are having masked it, and whenever it is indicated 0, at that time it is unmasked. Same as well as for M0.5, M0.7, and the pin number D3, that is our MSE pin. So this is the mask set enable, and it should be 1 to make D0 and D1 effective. If it is 0, then D0 and D1 is not effective. What is the value of D0 to D2? That is this values. This is the D0, D1 and D2. So these need to be 1 at that time. So mask set enable. So it should be 1. Okay, it should be 1 to effective of D0, D1 and D2. So if it is 0, so it is not effective. Okay, so we need to set it at a 1. Now next one, that is RST 7.5. so it is going to reset RST 7.5 flip flop. Then after serial output, so SOE, that is serial output enable, we are going to enable it. When it is 0, at that time it is disable, and when it is 1, at that time it is enable. And after serial output data, that is either 1 or 0, it is depending on the serial output of that data. Okay, now we are going to see EI, that is enable interrupt. We are going to enable our interrupt. The EI instruction set the interrupt enable flip flop as shown in figure. So as we seen figure previously, the RST 7.5, RST 6.5, RST 5.5 and INTR are enabled using EI instruction, that is enable interrupt instruction. It is important to note that when any interruption is acknowledged, interruption enable flip flop a reset and disable all interrupts. So enable flip flop a reset and disable all the other interrupts. Next we are going to see, to enable interrupt in further process, it is necessary to execute EI, that is enable interruption instruction within the interrupt service routine. Now next we are going to see disable interrupts. So the disable interrupts reset the interrupts enable flip flop. Okay, disable interrupts reset the interrupts, that is enable flip flop as shown in figure. Thus it is disable 80, disable 7.5, disable, it is going to disable RST 6.5, RST 5.5 and INTR interrupts. Next one, that is SIM SIM, or we can say as set interruption mask. This instruction is used to set interruption mask and to send serial output. It transfers the context of accumulator to interrupts control logic and serial input output ports. Thus it is necessary to load appropriate context in the accumulator before execution of SIM instruction. Now next one, that is the pending interrupts. We already studied about the pending interrupts, right? So the real interrupt mask, that is RIM instruction, loads the status of the interrupted mask or interrupt mask, the pending interrupts and the content of the serial input data line SID, that is serial input data line, that is called as a SID, into the accumulator. Thus it is possible to monitor status of interrupted mask, pending interruption and serial input. Okay, There are number of interrupts. When one interrupt is being serviced, the other interrupt request may occur. Okay, as we earlier discussed, if the interrupt requests are of higher priority, at that time 8085 branch program control to the request interrupted service routine. Okay, so it is going to left the previous one and it is going to go through the new interruption that have the priority. But when the interruption requests are of the lower priority, the 8085 stores the information about this interrupt request, and such interrupt requests are called as a pending interrupt request. Okay, pending interrupt request. The status of pending interrupt can be monitored using RIMS instruction. So if we have programmed something like this is our program, so several lines of the program, and interrupts are occurs at this point. At that time it is going to start that interruption reset circuit, RST circuit, and it is going to reset that interruption. And in between, if we are finding another interruption that is more priority than the this one, at that time this interrupt is going to be executed first, then after it is going to execute where it is left, and then after it is going to execute to till the reset, and after that it is going to start our program. But if the other interruption, that is this second interruption, does not have that much of priority, at that time it is going to store that data of that instruction over here. So it is going to complete this instruction first, then after it is returning to this point, because this instruction at this point is stored, so it is going to return to this point, and then after completing all the servicing routine, and after that it is going to play back this program where it is left. Okay, so this is the interruption of accumulator bit pattern for the ring. So for the pending instruction, so it is going to set RST 505 is marked. So D0, D1 and D2 are for M5.5, M6.5, M7.5, and it is going to be masked. Okay, and IE, that is the enable. Okay, it is the enable flip flop. IE, that is the enable flip flop set. Then after it is going to enable, so set RST 5.5, that is pending, whatever the pending, that is 5.5, 6.5 and 7.5 pending are over here. And first one, that is the serial data input, that is the D7 pin. Now we are going to see the interrupt timing. So as mentioned earlier, interrupt are level triggered, okay, or edge triggered, or both edged and level triggered. For the level clock triggered interrupt, the interrupt must be hold high until the interrupt is acknowledged. So it need to be hold high. If it is not hold high until the interrupt is acknowledged, it is not going to consider it as an interrupt. So it need to hold that high until the interrupt is acknowledged. Okay, and figure shows the timing parameter of that interrupts. So at that time, this is the figure of the clock circuit, and this is the clock signal, and where we have facing some amount of interrupts. So if we have interrupts at this point, we can say this point, so at that time it need to be strong as a high. So at this point it is going to consider it is as a interrupt, and TL, that is the last cycle in the instruction cycle. Now the total time between the occurrence of interrupt request and the beginning of the interrupt machine cycle is called the latency time. As shown in figure, the latency time, that is TL, okay, that is the latency time. As shown in figure, the interruption signals must be valid for the large time or greater time than the greater than or equal to the interrupt setup time, that is TINS. Okay, it should be held high until the interrupt hold time, that is TIN, before the falling edge of the clock for the last state of the instruction cycle in order to have next machine cycle to be interrupted machine cycle. So T last is equal to TINS plus TINH. So it is hold plus last steady state value. For the 8085A, the minimum value of teens, that is TINS over here, this is capital T and INS, this TINS, okay, value is 160 nanosecond. The interrupt hold time, that is TINS, varies depending on the clock cycles or clock frequency requiring for the execution of the current execution instruction. The worst case latency time, that is TLAT max, is equal to TINS plus Tmax, and instruction cycle, that is going to be is equal to 160 nanosecond plus 18T. Now here is the specified state transition diagram of 8085 instruction interruption input output. So TR, that is whatever the instruction we have, after that it is going to execute T1, then after T2. So if it is not ready, it is going to ready from TW, then after it is going to be ready and it is going to given to the T3. After that it is going to given to T4, T5, T6 and returning back, and is the last machine cycle is executed. If it is not, then it is also going to repeat the same process and it is the last machine cycle at that time. Yes, then it is the valid interrupt. If it is valid interrupt, then it is going to be further, or if it is not a valid interrupt, at that time it is going back to the point T1. And it is if it is the valid interrupt, at that time it is going to set INTAFF and reset INTEFF. Okay, so this is the flow chart of that interruption in 8085. Now interrupt driven input output. So figure shows the 8 key are connected to the microprocessor using interrupts driven input output technique. When none of the key is pressed, all input line are high. So let's see the figure. Okay, here is the figure. You can draw this figure in your notebook, and we have this. We are talking about this switch right now. We are talking about these switches. Okay, so when none of the key is pressed, all the input line are high and the output of 8 input NAND gate is low. So let's see the figure. If not a single pin is started or on at that time, the output of that NOT is 0. Okay, next, if any key is pressed, the status of that line become 0 and the NAND gate output goes high, which gives the interrupt signal to the 8085. Then microprocessor execute the interrupt service routine to check which key is pressed. Okay, so it is going to check out of 8 which key is going to be pressed. In this system, it is not necessary for microprocessor to check whether key is pressed or not in between program execution. Here, when key is pressed, the interrupt is automatically generated and it initiate input output data transfer, so it is referred to as interrupt driven input output. So it is referred to as interrupt input output. Okay, so if we are pressing any kind of key over here, so from that key it is going to get the AND data and output is going to be get some value at the reset point 0.7.0 in 8085, and this is the buffer circuit that is from D0 to D7, and that is also called as a data bus of 8085. And over here we have another circuit that is A0 to A7, that is given the ABCD and G1, G2 and G, that is going to give our output Y0. Okay, so let's see about what is the Y0 do and what are the function of Y0. So Y0 is ORing over here. So we have input, output and memory and read over here. So whatever the input output over here, if it is M, it is 1, output is going to be 0, and if it is 0, output is going to be 1. So it is going to be odd, so either one of them is 1 at that time. ORing this is going to enable this buses. So out of that, this is going to be enabled this, and from that the data bus that is going to given to the 8085. So our 8085 program is continuously working perfectly fine, but whenever we have pressed any switch, at that time only it is going to see that there is some kind of interrupt in circuit, and it is going to run that routine test for which interruption it is, which switch it is going to be interrupted. So this is the interrupted driven input output techniques. And here are some of the important questions from the GTU. So what do you mean by nested interrupts? We know about the nested interrupts. Then what do you mean by hardware interrupts? We know about hardware interrupts and software interrupts and pending interrupts as well. So these questions are maybe asked for 2 marks. Then after explain 8085 interrupts, so we need to explain different types of interrupts in details and how many interrupts are available in 8085 microprocessor. We also need to be define the same. So question 5 and 6 are same questions. Okay, that's it for today's video. If you find any query, then please ask me. Thank you.